Welcome to In the Zone, brought to you by U.S. Construction Zone, bringing you strategies for success with construction innovators and change makers, including In the Zone peer-nominated national award winners. Here are your hosts, Jeremy and Valerie Owens.
In the Zone, I am Jeremy Owens with my beautiful wife,
Valerie.
She still is. She really is. Today we have a great guest, Casey Gray. We had two Canadians in a row, which is just our brothers to the north. They really are. But we had a great conversation with Casey. If you are a person who likes to be inspired, likes to learn from somebody who is leading from the front and that he's doing very unique things with his business, but also just a person who is constantly learning and wanting to feed his brain and prepare himself for whatever comes in the future. But this is the podcast for you. Yes, you're just agreeing. You know, nodding doesn't really do a lot when you're doing a podcast, and most people are listening via audio.
Sorry, I agree.
Okay. Yeah.
Casey, he's a very interesting person, and what I like so much about him is just the background that he comes from and how he's used that in a way that has really fueled him to make a great impact in the building industry.
Yeah, I agree. So enjoy the podcast with Casey Gray. Casey Gray is the founder of the award-winning sustainable building company, The Conscious Builder, and is also the host of the Conscious Builder podcast and the Conscious Builder show on YouTube. His area of expertise is in building standards such as Passive House, R2000, Net Zero Energy, and Energy Star. Casey is committed to educating people on how to build and live more consciously and is co-authoring a book with Kevin Harrington, the original shark from the hit TV show Shark Tank. Say that 3 times fast. Welcome, Casey Gray. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Jeremy and Valerie.
Yeah.
Yes. We'll get right into it. Our first question is just really, how did you get started in construction, and maybe what did you learn from both of your parents that got you prepared for it?
So I'll start with what I learned from my parents, I guess, and then I'll go into construction. So my mom is an entrepreneur. She's owned her own business my entire life. I'm younger than my siblings on that side. And maybe I got that bug from her. I was just always interested in doing my own thing, so to speak, right? Having control over where the business went. So that's always been of interest to me. But obviously I worked for somebody else when I got into construction. So from her, I learned a lot of the entrepreneur side of things, and mostly from watching what she was doing. And I got my work ethic from her, that's for sure. My dad was definitely sports and the teamwork side of things. So my dad always coached my teams or was involved somehow, always brought me to games. He was very involved on that front. So I guess from my dad, it would be more about the power of team, right? Because we always played team sports and coming together and working towards an ultimate goal and working together ultimately. So He was always a great coach.
What team sports did you excel
at? Baseball was my top sport, and I played basketball in the winter, in the off season for baseball.
Cool.
But I was, okay at basketball, but a lot better at baseball. My dad was a little upset that I didn't pursue my baseball career further, but anyways, but that leads me into construction, right? So I got into construction mostly because that was my best class in school. That was where my interest was at. Ultimately, that's my best class. And right out of high school, I started to look for an apprenticeship because in grade 11, I believe it was grade 11 for myself, they started to push apprenticeships here in Canada, at least where we were. And carpentry was one of them. So as soon as I learned about that, I went through school thinking I was going to go in for engineering because I wanted to build stuff, but I didn't really know who built stuff. Like nobody in my family was in construction. My brother was a mechanical engineer. Like all my siblings went to university. Yeah, so I was kind of going through school for that, but I didn't really like school. You know what I mean? Like I didn't like sitting. It's not like I was skipping classes or anything like that, but I didn't enjoy it.
Right.
So I was kind of doing it because I thought I needed it. But once I found out that I can go into construction and this might actually be a better avenue, and you don't have to pay the fees that you have to for university.
Right.
It made a lot of sense. So once I found out about that, I went home. My mom actually said, sure, if that's what you want to do. She took it really well, which was great. And all my marks after that started to plummet, except for my construction mark, because I didn't realize I didn't need any of them anymore.
Uh-oh.
I'm pretty sure I talked my way through calculus, because I don't know if I actually passed it, but she gave me a passing grade. And so, yeah, and once I got out of high school when I was 17, actually, because being, having a birthday later and no grade 13, we were the first grade to get rid of that here.
Okay.
And which worked out well. I turned down a couple jobs, found one company who did renovations, and that's what I tell people now. If you want to learn anything about construction, join a small renovation firm. They're going to teach you the most. Ideally, they're doing a lot of different things. And I worked for that company. We did infills, we did additions, we did renovations, we did all sorts of stuff. Worked for them for almost 7 years, and then eventually I went off on my own and been learning from my mistakes ever since.
Well said. Well said.
Kind of going a little away from the questions we prepared, but I'm curious, can you tell us a little bit about how it's different in Canada? It seems that trades are pushed a little bit more than necessarily university or college here. Is that true that you're presented with trades as an option?
Yeah, we didn't have wood shop. We didn't have anything in high school. So yeah, we were like the first generation that was gone.
Mm-hmm.
So they started eliminating that.
Yeah.
They started eliminating wood shop. A lot of trade experience.
Arts.
Yeah. So we didn't get a good experience with that.
They definitely seem to be pushing it more now. I don't know. It's not like I've been in high school for a while or gone through or talked to anybody. My son's 8, so I don't know what's there yet. But I know when I was there, they weren't pushing it. They started pushing it because of the shortage, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think they're still kind of pushing it. Now, the school I went to didn't have an auto shop. They got rid of that. I think it was an interest thing. I think if there just wasn't interest in it, they would get rid of it because obviously somebody would have to pay for it.
Right.
And if nobody's taking it, then why would they do it? So there always was a wood shop, not enough for auto. Now, other schools in the area did have auto. In wood shop, I don't remember them doing electrical or anything like that.
Yeah.
It was more like cabinetry, learn a little bit about frame, like how a home is built, but we didn't do a whole lot other than woodworking type.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
So Jeremy was sharing a little bit about your family, the family dynamics. It sounds like you've got people in all sorts of
We have a family shrub. We're not a family tree. We grow sideways.
I love that. So how has that experience with probably, you didn't have a classical upbringing. How has that impacted you?
I think it's actually helped me, to be honest. Give you a little, I guess, for the listeners, a little bit of background. I have 4 brothers, 2 sisters, and 3 step siblings. All my brothers and sisters are the ones that I just mentioned. So the 6 of them, they're all half. So technically, when my parents were married, they only had me.
Okay.
So I have I won't get into all the details, but essentially there's a big age gap and I'm kind of in the middle, right? So I have younger siblings who are 4 and 6 years younger, and I have older siblings who are 9, 11, or say 8, 10, 12, and 14 years older. So when I was growing up, and the fact that my parents were not together because they divorced when I was really young, so I never remember them being together, where it wasn't necessarily a bad thing is that they got along, so I didn't actually really know who had official custody of me. I didn't know what that was at the time. Mm-hmm. They kind of allowed me to choose when I wanted to go somewhere. So I tried to do it fairly, right? Because I didn't need my parents feel bad, sort of thing. But I kind of got 2 of everything, right? I got 2 Christmases, I got 2 Thanksgivings, I got 2 birthdays, plus a friend's birthday. So from that perspective as a kid, it was great. And for the most part, other than a small portion of my childhood, my parents were close enough that once I was old enough, I was just biking from house to house. Yeah. So they were close enough that I was able to do that. So I had that freedom. Mm-hmm. So I think where it probably helped me the most in terms of my personality is that I got used to change, right? Yeah. And And I think in anything that I've learned in all my personal development over the years is that there's only one constant, and that constant is change. Everything changes in the world, right? So the more comfortable you are with change, I think the better off you'll be in life, because things are always going to change, and it's just a matter of how we accept it and how we adapt and how we keep moving forward. And I had to change. At one house, I was the older brother. At the other house, I was the baby brother. Right?
Yeah.
So I kind of had to. I was being led at one home and learning, and then at the other house, I was kind of had to be the example, right?
Yeah.
So it was great from that perspective, looking back on it.
Yeah,
it's a great
it's just that
perspective.
resilience. Yeah. Okay, so the other one, I know I've heard you talk about this before, but tell us about what changed for you after you and your wife Natasha attended your first Tony Robbins event.
So that was a life-changing event. So how that came up is I bought my wife a book called The Success Principles by Jack Canfield. No idea why I bought her the book, can't remember now. But she read it, and in that book, he talks about Tony Robbins. And she said, "Oh, I remember Tony Robbins from those infomercials when I was a kid and watching him on, watching satellite TV at my grandparents' house." And so she looked into him, saw that he was doing these events, and she said, "Hey, do you want to go to the event?" And typical guy, I said, "Sure," but I didn't ask any questions, so I had no idea what I was walking into. And that event was called Unleash the Power Within. He's still doing them. I believe he's starting to do live again, so I highly recommend anybody that has the ability to go to that to go to it. The online events are actually pretty good. My wife did one of the online ones last year, and they did a really good job. But side note, it's still life-changing. And we went to that event and came out of that event on fire, lost my voice from all the screaming and shouting and jumping up and down. It was wild. And it's like a rock concert for 3 days, but with amazing people and, people who want to lift you up and be better. Yeah. But what I came out with is asking myself better questions. We started to ask questions about everything and why we do certain things. And it just opened our eyes to a whole new way of living that we had no idea about before, because we are all products of our environment. Mm-hmm. And once we know that and we understand that, we can then choose the environment that we want to be a part of and become a part of that environment. And that includes everyone that is around, like all the people who are around us, where we live, money, what people eat, exercise, all those things, right? Yeah. We are all products of our environment. So we have to be very careful about the environment that we choose to be in. And that is an environment that I want to be in.
So was that you were saying it was a life-changing event. Was there a huge monumental shift that happened in yours and your wife's life at that time? Or
it was kind of the beginning, right?
It was changed.
Yeah, I was asking the question. So what happened when we came out of the event, and we at that event, we signed up for other events of his. So we did what's called Mastery University. So we ended up doing Date with Destiny, which is another, like a deep dive event. Unleash Your Power Within is kind of overarching. It's kind of his initial event that introduces you to a lot of his other stuff and gives you a taste of what's possible. So we ended up doing Date with Destiny. We did Life and Wealth Mastery. And then I did Business Mastery as well. I've done that twice. And then we ended up volunteering again for events after, which is actually, in my opinion, the volunteering was more powerful than attending the event.
Wow.
But side note. What that ended up doing is, because it changed the way that we think, everything started to shift for us, and we started to ask ourselves better questions. So that was the big change. It wasn't like something changed in our lives. It's that we realized that we could change our lives.
Yes.
Well, I mean, you're so well spoken on this subject. You kind of are Tony Robbins right now for me. So keep going, but whatever rabbit hole that is, that's just looking good.
So we've heard you speak about the importance of a healthy body and mind. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so I think, that's obviously coming from Tony Robbins, and then since adding on to that since then. But mindset is everything. If there's anything that I've realized in business, it doesn't matter how good of a carpenter I am. If my mindset's not in the right place, I'm not going to be able to lead my team. And the success of any business really relies on the mindset of the leader. If they give up, then, that's the end of the business. But if they're not willing to give up, but they're willing to do whatever it takes, as long as people aren't getting hurt or anything like that, then that's the type of person that I think you want to work with, or that you need to become if you want to be an entrepreneur, if you want to be the leader of the business and whatever you're creating. And it's not for everybody. And I still want people with a good mindset, because you don't want everybody to necessarily be the entrepreneur. I need good managers. I need people that want to work with us, right? We all have our skills. But ultimately that mindset is so important because and it kind of comes down to the health as well, is because I realize that my mindset changes if I don't have if I haven't been sleeping well, or I haven't been eating healthy, or I haven't been exercising, or whatever it may be. And everyone's different, but you need to get in tune with your body. You need to get in tune, and maybe it's journaling, maybe it's something. It's to realize what's working and what's not working. It's that introspective type place that so many of us don't have the time to do, that we don't give ourselves the gift of doing this, that I think is so important. And it's, you mentioned you had kids. Actually I can talk personally and we picked up a puppy over the holidays, which was not my vote, but I was outvoted. But, it's not that I don't like dogs or anything. I just know that where my time was at.
Yes.
So definitely, I'm glad we got it. I wouldn't change it anything, but that has changed my morning routine, right? So I had to kind of shift because I'm the one who gets up early, and obviously I can't just leave the dog in the crate. So I have to adjust and do my thing with the dog and adjust the rest of my day, because I use the morning to set myself up for the day, right? I start off with a win, train my brain to win, in control, because I know the rest of my day is not going to go as planned. It never does.
Right.
There's always something that goes on, phone call goes longer than expected, something comes up, who knows, right? There's just so many things that's that change that we were talking about at the beginning. So by working on the mindset, by meditating, by starting my day off well, by doing this routine, that's what I'm able to do in order to make sure that I stay in that mindset that I know I need in order to accomplish the goals that ultimately.
Very well said. Very well said. I think the meditation piece is something I've tried to dabble in. I struggle with it a little bit, but I realize the same thing, that if I set my brain up in a positive way from the beginning, it completely changes your day. And you're just more equipped to handle all that. I mean, we're in construction, right? There's a fire here. There's something else here. It's so hard to control the day for us. But you can control your mornings and your nights, I guess, and to a large degree. So,
exactly. It's the only two things we really have control over, right? Is how, the only thing we really have control over is how we act, right, or react in any given situation. But in terms of times of the day, it's the right when you wake up, and assuming you get up early enough to do it, and right before you go to bed. Everything else is a shit show.
Exactly. Well, the other thing we wanted to find out about is, like, your mission at The Conscious Builder is to make sure everybody in the world has a healthy, comfortable, and efficient home to live in. Where did your love for planet Earth come from? And, when did you know that this was going to be like a potential life mission for you?
It came through those Tony Robbins events, and because you do a lot of work and through those events, and really where it really came into focus is when we found out that we were having our son. And at that point, as you know, like when you have kids, your mindset changes, because you start thinking about me. You start thinking about, I'm going to have this little person who's going to be looking up to me. How am I going to lead by example, right? Because there's one thing that I knew even before I had kids, is that kids don't do what you say, they do what they see, right? Monkey see, monkey do, right? They do as you do. So I was thinking, I have to lead by example. So if I'm going to tell this person that he can do whatever he wants, I have to be able to do that. And I just want to make sure that this place that we call Earth is better than it was when I leave, or at least do my part. Right. Obviously, I don't have control over that. Right. All I can do is do the best I can with what I know. And I know that I can't do everything. Right. That's just not possible. But I can make a little bit of a difference in my small corner of the world. And it happens to be in construction and building healthy, comfortable, and efficient homes. And it happens to be good for the environment too, right? But we focus more on the occupant, the health of the occupant, and whatever their needs are. Obviously, we want to just maintain that healthy environment, and usually that's just leading to other things that are also good for the Mother Earth, Mother Nature.
Yeah, sure, awesome.
Yeah.
And the other thing that we we wanted to kind of find out, you keep your mind busy. You're a lot like me. I don't even know, sometimes sleeping is difficult because your mind's always on. But I mean, it's safe to say that you keep yourself very busy with, you're a builder, podcaster, YouTuber, author, crypto and real estate investor, and now NFT collector. I mean, how do you effectively manage your time with all of these responsibilities? And what gets you out of bed the fastest?
So in terms of how I manage my time, most of my time still goes to construction, navigating the business. But to me, it's not necessarily working on the job sites. I'm still doing sales. I'm still doing all that. So it's really focusing on what my goals are for that day and figuring out what the priorities are, right? So I need to tackle top priorities. It's realizing what's important versus what's urgent, because not everything that's urgent is necessarily important.
Yeah.
Right.
And for the most part, I have very few things coming at me that are urgent that my team can't tackle, right? So I'm lucky that I'm able to, at this point, 12 years of business, I can focus for the most part on the important things. Mm-hmm. But the important thing for me is to know, at least in my position, I feel, is to know a lot about different things that are going to affect the business, right? And so that's economy, that is things like cryptocurrency, that is just understanding how we can use that, staying ahead of the game. And I just happen to be pulled towards that because I'm generally interested in technology and really believe that we're going to our world's changing, and it's changing faster than our brains can comprehend, right? Our brains think linearly, but technology increases exponentially. Yeah. And it's harder and harder to stay on top of that. But when you start to train your brain to think that way and you see what's possible, it's wild. NFTs, I think, are going to be huge in all industries. Mm-hmm. Construction's an industry that hasn't been really disrupted yet. Mm-hmm. I think things are changing. Same with real estate. Things are changing. NFTs might be one of those things that helps it. Once you understand NFTs, you can see what's possible with them. Like, really, if you just break it down, what it is proof of ownership. Mm-hmm. You can attach whatever you want to it. It's not a picture, right? Yeah. What people are saying, it's what does that prove ownership? It's a membership, right? Yeah. The NFT could be the membership, but the great thing is you pay for it once, and then when you're done with it, you can sell it, and it's probably worth more, right? As long as it was a good membership to something good, right? Yeah. So there's, it could be ownership in a home. It could be the deed to a house. So as long as you own the wallet that owns that NFT, you own the house. Yeah. Right. Yeah. You can then transfer that NFT to your family if you want, or it makes things, cryptocurrency, that whole world makes things so much easier, and people, the government is afraid, and they're just, that's why you see all sorts of stuff coming out about what they're going to do, or they're claiming they're going to do that for the most part probably won't happen. Like, it's not possible, but not to go into politics or anything like that, but technology is going to change things, and people who are higher up are afraid of what that means.
Yeah.
And even hearing you talk about it, it's funny because I think how you were talking about how your family dynamics led to your being more accepting of change and open and flexible. Mm-hmm. And also my guess would be that your family dynamics also led you to, it was sort of a choice of like, I can look at things in an optimistic light with hope. And, I can look at this, what could be a tough situation, with positivity. And so when I hear you say that, I think a lot of people that we meet in the construction industry tend to look at the way that we're progressing, and it's very frightening. And so they want to back out or back off. Whereas, people with mindsets like yours, and like you were saying, that ask the right questions or different ways of asking questions, you just have an openness and a curiosity. And I think that's where you will continue to change lives and change the dynamic of the industry.
Yeah. I mean, there's still a lot of old school folks, right? I mean, we see them all the time. They want to do things like, I'm the third generation, so I see just drastic changes from when my grandpa started in 1956. There's nothing familiar to what it was then to now. But there's so many of those old school guys, my dad included, that it's a hard time adapting to some of the new things. And I think, people like yourself, you kind of push that limit and show people, well, this is the path I'm going to take. I want to be prepared for what could be, right?
Yeah, I get excited by change, right? I think that's, I never answered your question actually when you said what gets you up quick. It's usually when I'm working on something different. that's what gets me excited. I'm more the guy, I like starting things. I'm not like the finisher.
Yeah.
I get the team going, I get the ideas going, and then I get the team on board, and then I let them run with it, right? Because then there's something else that I need to focus on or get going again, or research or whatever it may be. But when big things happen, that excites me, because that's usually when the greatest potential is for something good to have, something positive to happen. Yeah, something negative can come from it, but it all depends on what you want to focus on.
Yeah.
But when something big like the pandemic, go back 2 years ago when all this started, a lot of people were afraid. I was actually excited from a business standpoint, because I knew that things were going to change, and I knew that there was going to be a lot of opportunity. Right?
Yeah.
When something like that so big happens, that just means that there's going to be bigger opportunity. Yes, there's going to be a lot of pain as well. But if you can focus on the opportunity, then you can actually do quite well. And we have done well. And it was painful at the beginning, but I stayed focused on what could come from that. And it's still coming, right? Because there's things happening in Canada that I don't necessarily agree with. We won't get into that. But what that's doing is creating other opportunity for me, right? And like, it's amazing the people that get attracted. The phone call that I had yesterday was leading to another opportunity that was beyond what I was thinking at the time, right? So you have to just be open to that.
Yep.
Yeah, very cool.
That's wonderful. So you've talked a little bit about your wife and your son, and it's obvious how important they are in your life. How has the work-life balance been achieved by you? Do you have a work-life balance?
Yeah. So luckily, my wife and I are on the same page in the sense that it's never really balanced. It's more like a teeter-totter. You're more on one side or more on the other side. And to be honest, I'm obviously, in terms of hours, I work way more than what I spend with my family. But I enjoy it that way, and I think it works well for us. I think just as, you know, in doing enough studying of like masculine energy, feminine energy, that sort of stuff, I'm very masculine. My wife is very feminine. But one of the things for the masculine energy is the work, to have a purpose, right? That's what fuels me. If I'm just hanging out with my family or playing games, and like, I would lose my passion for life, right? It's not to say that I never spend time with them, but it's all in that teetering and knowing when, there's some nights where, like, every night I have stuff to work on, but there's some nights that I realize that, okay, my wife needs to talk. And sometimes I'm right, sometimes I'm wrong, or sometimes I'm like, I realize it, but I don't do anything about it, and I learn my lesson. Right? And then you just have to, and those are the times that you just have to take advantage of and make it work. Same with my son, right? If I know that I got to spend more time with him, then I'll make sure that I do that. But it's just being in tune, checking in, and doing what you need to. And obviously realizing that everything I'm doing for the most part is for us as a family, right? A lot of the stuff that I do. And they realize that too. And if they need something, my son needs something, he'll tell me.
Yeah.
My wife will drop hints, and then I got to figure it out. But
keeps it interesting.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, we've kind of read a lot of those, those books about personality styles and men, women. We're the same way, where I have like typical guy tendencies, and I want to be a fixer. Being in construction too, right? We're just set up to like want to fix things like right away. And I've learned that, that's not the way life works sometimes, is that you don't get to control everything. And so it's been a real struggle for me. But yeah, it's just ongoing knowledge, right? On learning as we go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Cool. Well, we want to finish up with just getting to know you a little bit. We call it our zone out session, and we just asked you a couple quick questions here. So the first one is, as a child, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I actually remember wanting to be a police officer when I was a kid. I don't know why, but that might just be because a lot of kids want to be that for some reason. But that was construction. I always played with Lego and built stuff, but I never thought of a construction worker or anything like that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Police officer. But
not as many anymore probably are saying that. It's a tough job.
No, not a good. I wouldn't want to be in their position, right?
Yeah.
No way.
So you have your own late night talk show. Who would you want to be your first guest?
Obviously, Tony Robbins would be a great guest for multiple reasons. I guess it would depend on what the talk show is on. But another person who I think would be super interesting to have on would be Ray Dalio. And I learned about him through Tony Robbins. He has his book Principles, and he has another one that I just finished reading, but I forget it's Principles of Navigating an Ever-Changing Environment. It's something along those lines. If you search Ray Dalio, really, really well written, but it essentially talks about the economy over time, like over hundreds of years, and the rise and fall of nations and what's happening right now with the U.S. because the U.S. has been the top nation for so long and is now dropping, and China's catching up, right? And how that's going to happen, but it's cyclical, right? It's always up and down, right? So just understanding that, I think, is super interesting, and talking with him and getting into his brain would be pretty cool.
Yeah. I'd like to see you and Tony Robbins chat it up, but okay. All right. The third one is, who is the most influential person in your life?
I don't know if I could choose just one person. Like, obviously, once again, it can come down to Tony Robbins, but I read so many books and learn from so many different people that I feel like influential people come and go at different times of our lives. And who might be influential to me right now might not be as influential in 5 years from now, right? Because we go through different parts. So I don't think I could put one name to that. I feel like there's a lot of people that fall into that category and have helped me over the years, including my parents, including each one of my siblings, including like Tony Robbins, every single book that I've read, podcasts that I've listened to, right? So there's so many different aspects there's so many different times that people have come in. I've had a friend help me kind of as a coach for a ton of years. His name's Chris Castillo, actually. Like, he would have is influential, but we haven't spoken as much in the last couple of years, right? But he helped me out a lot 5 years ago. So
yeah, there's a lot you can answer to that. Well, I mean, both Val and I appreciate your time here, and obviously you're leading in so many ways, not only in your little area of the world. I mean, we're talking to you from California, so you made an impact, around the globe. So I would just say, keep going on your little journeys of, hey, I want to learn about that. Yeah, do it. Just keep doing it, and keep speaking your mind. And you can tell it comes from a place of passion and like heart. There's a lot of heart to you. So I would just say, keep going, and thank you.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
I appreciate that.
All right. Yeah. Bye now. Just finished up with Casey Gray. What a great podcast, and a good person. And maybe he's a better person than he is. I don't know. He seems like a great builder as well, but I was just taken aback by how introspective he is. And, obviously we like those kind of people personally, but, he's obviously that way in business and in life. His component of spirituality and meditation, and there's a lot to him. There's a lot of depth. So we probably could have had like 3 sessions, but we did one. So that's a condensed version. But no, I had a good time chatting with him.
Yeah, he's a really interesting person. I love how his, we talked a little bit about what gets him up in the morning and gets him excited. And it's just interesting hearing him talk. He's very honest about the fact that while he is a family man, he is also very much passionate about what he does. And I think sometimes in whether it's construction industry, any industry whatsoever, I think a lot of times, and correct me if I'm wrong,
You're wrong.
we have to downplay our success or our drive, and we have to really promote the fact that we're all about family, and we know that that's the right way to go and be. And I like that I really appreciated that he showed that, hey, it's cool to to say, hey, I'm curious about this. I'm passionate about this. I love learning about this, and how that is really very much a drive of his. And it was really nice to hear that.
Yeah, no, I can relate to what he says, like, about, the same with me and family is like what I do and the things I do in my construction careers does build me up. It does make me who I am. So not having that part of me, it is, and it is very Guy for me to say that, but we are kind of a little bit more tied to our careers, typically speaking. And I feel the same way that to be unsuccessful would be crushing for me,
Mm.
you know. So I related to him there.
Yeah. And whether that's, I think for you, if I were to say for you, it'd be less, your success would be less based on monetary
Yes.
than it would be on just making sure that you are living true to who you are, which would be going after things that you want in business.
I would say, leaving a lasting legacy is something that, I would share with Casey and pretty much everyone we've had on our podcast.
Yeah.
Is that you want it to go beyond you somehow, some way. And,
Mm-hmm.
I think everyone that we've had on has that same drive. So
great guy.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks again for tuning in to In the Zone. I'm Jeremy. We'll see you next time. Thanks.
You've been listening to In the Zone with Jeremy and Valerie Owens. Be sure to subscribe to In the Zone and stay in the know with the best minds in the construction industry. To nominate an innovator or change maker in the construction industry, connect with your management peers, and stay up to date with construction industry news, be sure to visit usconstructionzone.com.